Waters presents On the Box.
All right, hey, welcome to On the Box. I am Tony Miano. No, I guess not. All right, so I'm filling in for Tony Miano. He has the day off, so they wanted somebody with some hair up here at the podium, so that's where I come into place. Today is Thursday, July 21st, 2011. What's your name?
Guess.
Scotty. Stuart.
Good guess.
Scotty Scott. Sound engineer extraordinaire.
Among other things.
Yes, you have taught me a thing
And
or
all
two.
of them extraordinary.
Absolutely. So we want you to send us your videos, your questions, your comments to onthebox@livingwaters.com. I take it Tony's going to be looking at that because I have no idea where that goes. So if you have questions, send it to him, and he's going to answer that. And if you want to follow us on the blog, go to onthebox.us. Onthebox.us. So Scotty.
Yeah.
How you been lately?
Boy, you're just jumping right into
Yes.
it, aren't you?
I know you would think that I watch more of this to see how Tony does it, but I think a lot of us wear so many hats we don't have a lot of time to jump inside.
Emails.
You know what I'm saying? Emails. That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we have a couple conferences coming up, don't we? We got Transformed happening down in Oceanside
this weekend.
this weekend, and I think we only have 2 left scheduled for this year, the rest of this year. So Oceanside, it's not too late. It's a free event, which is great. And you got some good speakers, and then you got me. But you have Todd Friel, Easy, Ray, and myself.
And Comic-Con.
Oh, that's right. So this is the first event where we are hitting the streets afterwards at Comic-Con. I think it's comiccon.com.
I don't know that one, but comic strip characters, and people dress up, and I guess it's a big deal. Eddie's the one that
So people with
said
no
we should
lives
go.
whatsoever show up at this event dressed up in their favorite superhero attire,
I guess.
and we're going to preach
We're
to
going
them.
to find out.
We're going to use gospel tracks. We're going to open air. We're going to invite everybody that's going to attend
Yeah.
to come on out with us.
Hopefully they'll come and get a taste of what it's really like.
That should be a good time.
Yeah.
And then we have our deeper registration. Brad Snow, man, that guy's amazing. Snowmedia.com. He has created once again a stellar website, and he does it so quickly. I'm amazed at how fast he works. He burns the candle at both ends, staying up so late, but he's able to do it. And
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to look at it.
It's October 14th to the 15th. So right now we've made it available to sign up now. You can have early registration. And if you haven't been to a deeper conference, I think this is our 4th or 5th deeper conference. So people come out of the woodworks, and it is so encouraging. I had the chance to speak at the last couple. I'm not speaking at the next one. But the last couple that I've spoken at, I've had the ability to interact with some people out on that are sitting out there. And now that's where I'm going to be. And I like just hearing the stories of people being affected by the ministry. All that God has done in and through them because of programs like this.
Yeah,
You
get a lot of people that have been following the ministry for some time to come to these because they want to dive deeper.
Yes.
Right? And, Ray has come back with some really touching stories. A lot of people just come up to him with tears in their eyes because of what the message means to them and what it's done for their lives and how it's changed them. And it snaps us back to reality when we realize, it's not all just fun and games, but there's some real significant things happening out there. So,
Ray and I,
great
think Ray mentioned
encouragement.
it earlier in the week that we had the opportunity to bump into the Duggars with that TV show at
I've
19
never
and
met
Counting.
them.
Yeah, boy,
There's a few of them, I hear.
There was a lot of them, and we got invited to go inside their bus, and we actually videotaped the encounter, and we're going to show it inside our newsletter on Monday the 25th. But so a couple of them came up to me and they said, "Hey, man, we love your TV show." And I wanted to go, "Man, I love your TV show, but I've never seen 10 seconds of it." And now I've just set my TiVo to record 17. I think it's when I saw it, it's 17 and counting. That's where it's at. I don't know when it airs the updated episodes, but it just showed me that there's people in different places that are watching the television show, that are reading Ray's articles, that are visiting his blog, that are into the open air preaching that you guys do down in Huntington, and we just have all these multifaceted outreaches, and they don't go unnoticed. Isn't that neat? I mean, God is able to just do all the funny little things that Ray has inside of his mind, and God uses them, and that's absolutely amazing.
He's got a few.
All right, so we have a couple prizes to give away, and the winners are going to be announced on next Monday's show. The first prize is a hardcover edition of the New Evidence Bible. I'm off the screen there. I'm going to be a little closer to Scott. I love Scotty, but I also love the New Evidence Bible, because the New Evidence Bible has things that were not able to make the cut for the first printing of the Evidence Bible.
Lots of new notes. And
boy, there are so many nuggets inside there. I had a friend that purchased the Evidence Bible, and he was telling me how there's things in there that are so practical that he doesn't think that another apologetical book is necessary when being prepared and equipped to go hit the streets.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's quite the commendation, if you're going to throw something on the back of a book. But so that is the first prize. The second prize is the Blue Book on Evangelism, and this is typically the Q&A with Ray Comfort. If you can just kind of be a fly on the wall, ask him a question. Hey, well, how do you feel about people who've never heard about the gospel? What do you say to somebody like that? So Ray just kind of breaks it down, and he answers all those questions.
I was just looking at it again here recently, and there is so much good stuff in it. It's really good. It's like picking his brain,
Yeah, and it's not just answering skeptics' questions, but it's, hey, I'm an evangelist, or I want to be an evangelist. Okay, I want to hand out a tract. What do I do? Where do I start? And that's what it is. It's the Blue Book. It's the blueprint, really, to get going in evangelism. And Ray's just broken it down in real simple terms with the help of Lynn Copeland, and we appreciate her editorial skills. And then the third prize is, 5 packs of the Celebrity Teen Millions, or the Youth Millions.
That's a great graphic, Danny. Let's have a Danny sighting up there. We got
good.
one of those. Oh, there's no. It's another Brad Snow sighting.
There's Brad.
Wonderful graphic, Brad.
Well, that's, today, Brad and I, we wore the same exact outfit to work. Blue jeans.
We got the same shirt on.
Today, yeah. You have blue. I've got blue. See, everybody wears black, and I was never privy to get one of the black ones.
Well, this was free. That's why I'm wearing it.
Yes.
I didn't have to buy this one.
I stole mine.
Yeah.
I think that I was supposed to pay.
Grabbed it from somebody?
Yeah. Well, God knows. All right. Hey, so you've been reading a book.
Yeah. The Exodus case. Again, it's Thursday, right?
Yes.
And, boy, I spend most of the week just looking at different parts of this book. And the websites are there. You go there, and I really give credit to Dr. Moeller for the research that he's done. And what is that first graphic there, Danny? I forget what I gave you. I think it might be this is an actual picture of Nueba, which is the Gulf of Aqaba, and the side that we're looking at, if you could keep that up a little longer, the side at the bottom is the Sinai Peninsula, and Nueba is that delta that goes out, and on the other side is Saudi Arabia, and we've been talking about the underwater road there. It's very shallow. If it weren't, you can see how rugged the mountains are. The valley would be much too deep for them to cross, even if the water was divided. Okay, Danny, thank you. And so that's about 9 miles across at that point where we're saying they crossed. And the underwater highway or bridge under there is about at least a mile, if not more, wide. And so that sandbar kind of continues. if we could go to the movie, let's just jump into that before I run out of time like I usually do, because there's so many things. But I tried to record Google, the movements on Google. Now that's the ministry. You see my card there?
Right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see your photo.
There's your card too. Now we're jumping over to Sinai and the Gulf of Aqaba, and that blue area there, I'm going to tell you about in a minute. I guess I'm trying to orient you. There's Sinai, and that's Egypt towards the top, and there on the right is Israel. And Israel extends down to the tip of the Gulf of Aqaba, and Solomon had a port there and ships. So this is where the crossing was, and that blue area is about the size, as best I could estimate, of the Israeli encampment. 2 million plus people would fit on that area. And Egypt, the Pharaoh, 250,000 soldiers started piling in through that canyon. That's Wadi Watur. And they would have taken up about that much space. And so Israel became very disheartened and very upset. They were trapped. And what were they going to do? And so we know the story. God had Moses split the sea. And so if it was done, say, at this point, that's about 1 mile wide and about 9 miles across. And the fascinating thing here to me was how deep it would be, anywhere from 320 feet to 2,300 feet deep. And they still could have walked across. It still would have been the same as a grade of about 12%, which is acceptable for the disabled here in this country. And they walked across dry land. The whole scenario was about 3 days. The first day, there was thunder and lightning. The first day, Egypt came into the Delta area, and then by the evening, Israel started to cross over, and it would have taken them all night long to the next morning. And in the morning watch, Egypt was caught in the middle, and all the sea came back, and Israel sang a song.
Yes, they did.
And they had a good time. Another interesting point about this is that all of the Egyptian arms and everything washed up on the shore on the eastern side, the side that Israel was encamped on now.
Oh, wow.
And now they were armed with all of their weapons and everything else. So archaeologically, though, there was a pillar found. It was fallen into the Red Sea on the Nueba coast, and it's just a plain pillar. It was, how tall was it? It seemed like I had it written down. It was about 15 feet tall, 3 feet in diameter, about 11 tons, made of red granite. It was very plain, but it was totally out of place. And they thought that was pretty interesting, and it had to have come from someplace else because there's no red granite there. And they erected it right there at the site where they think they crossed, but it became extremely significant when they realized there was another pillar found on the other side.
Right.
And that the Arabian government had defaced it. There was some engraving on it that they chiseled out and threw it down and cast it in the sea, and there's no diving there. But there is another one on the other side. You know, the people of Israel, when they crossed, they knew where they crossed, and they would have handed it down from generation to generation.
Makes sense.
And it's thought that Solomon erected these pillars because they're very similar to the pillars that he erected in Ashkelon, to commemorate, memorialize the site where the crossing was. Also, there have been found coral growing in the shape of like chariot wheels and chariot wagons and those kinds of things.
Chariots, fire.
Yeah, well, in that same area, it wouldn't be the wood anymore. That'd be gone, but the coral would form around it, and then there are petrified bones.
Oh.
Even what looks like whole skeletons in these coral piles, all in this area. So there's a great deal of evidence and corroborative archaeological evidence that this really is where it happened.
So what do you say to somebody who says there is no archaeological evidence to substantiate the vast claims of the Bible?
Yeah.
Where do you go from there when you're out on the streets?
Yeah.
If somebody pulls that up. Do you answer the question right away? Do you skip
I do.
it?
I have kind of an open air question. I say archaeology has never presented anything. All of its discoveries have never controverted one fact in the Bible. In other words, everything that we discover that has to do with anything that the Bible has said, it never disagrees. And so that's what I say in open air. But after doing this, I have a lot more confidence in saying there's tons of archaeology.
So do you memorize it, or do you have like cheat sheets inside your Bible when you go out? What do you do?
I wish I did, but I have tried to write notes and stuff, but in an open air, it's on the spot.
You gotta be quick.
You don't have time to go over to your backpack and pull out.
Yeah.
So I do have a clipboard now, and I've got a few things on there.
Right.
But I never get a chance to use them. Even to glance away and look, you can lose your hearers because their attention span is about 3 seconds, and once you have them, you got to keep them. So
yeah, right.
But anyway, that's the Exodus case for today.
That's interesting. You know, when I was in high school, I cheated a lot to my shame. You know, before I became a Christian, and I created little cheat sheets.
I've seen your cheat sheets, and I want them.
You know, I would write them up and down my pencil. You know, you'd always have to have two pencils, and I'd have my pencil right there. When the teacher would come by, I would just turn the pencil a little bit, and they didn't know that I had answers on the pencil, or I'd put them behind a map that was on the wall and things like that. And I said, you know, how can I use cheat sheets for the glory of God now that I'm a Christian? Because I really am not a very intelligent individual. I'm not very smart. My mind is not a steel trap vault the way it is for Greg Elsasser. So what do? I will, inside my Bible, I put little cheat sheets inside there. So when somebody comes up to me and it's legitimate, and we need to discuss the deity of Christ, I have 182 verses on a cheat sheet that show that Jesus Christ is indeed God in human flesh, or whatever subject they're ready and willing to talk about. You know? Now,
you do this on in a like one-to-one.
On a one-to-one, yeah.
Yeah, you can take the time and do that.
But not in an open air.
When I have time, it's that I could definitely use that stuff, and I haven't put it in there. But I'm just more open-air oriented, you know, and it's like, I find, though, even in one-to-one, I'm trying to get to the point. And boy, I just wish I would do more of that, because it is very comprehensive and can really open somebody's eyes. Yeah, and say,
9 times out of 10.
I never thought of it like that.
It's a great point, Scotty. You know, 9 times out of 10, when a question is asked, I avoid it. Not because I don't have the answer, not because there's not an intelligent answer to be given, but because usually it's a rabbit trail and they don't care for the answer.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, so you go for
you
the conscience.
spend all of your time doing this, and you lay out the best evidence that they could have, and they go, okay, well, what about this?
Right.
And they just switch the subject. If you have an answer, they're going to switch the subject.
Right.
They just want to stop your mouth.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Okay, so there was an article, and I think you saw it, Scotty, that came out in Christianity Today yesterday, July 20th. And the title of it was, Should We Still Use Gospel Tracts? Should we still give out gospel tracts? And this is what it says. It says, an Illinois Circuit Court recently ruled that a Baptist group could legally distribute anti-Catholic leaflets at a Catholic festival. Meanwhile, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals said that it was unconstitutional to restrict passing out Christian tracts at the Arab International Festival in Dearborn, Michigan. So now that such festival evangelism is legal, the question is it effective?
Who was that? That just fell out
That
of
was
the
the
air.
legend.
Oh.
Should we still use gospel tracts? And boy, there's
Another sighting.
there's an answer to be given on both sides. And I'll tell you, usually the people who say that gospel tracts are for today are people who hand out gospel tracts, and the people who say gospel tracts are not for today, they would also say open air preaching is not for today. And they would even say that one-on-one out on the streets, really, it's a bit archaic and it's not for today either.
Only when appropriate.
Yes. So it becomes whatever is pragmatic for that individual. But I'll tell you, let me read you a couple things that a couple different well-respected people have said, and then I'll kind of give you my input, and I'd love to get yours, Scotty, as well. Jerry Root, the professor over at Wheaton College, I think I liked what he had to say the most. And he basically was saying how the practice of proselytizing in public is as old as the New Testament. Jesus preached at public gatherings during feast times, and Paul preached openly in the marketplaces. So there seems to be some sort of a precedent given for open-air preaching for one-on-one. Mm-hmm. For somebody to say, hey, you can't do that today, my response would be, how do you know? Or why shouldn't I? It's not sinful to do so. They say, well, it's ineffective. How do you know? Mm-hmm. How do you know it's ineffective? You know, and the only way you would be able to say that it's ineffective is based upon your experience, which doesn't validate truth necessarily, or you base it upon the Word of God. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to find it in the Word of God that you shouldn't hand out tracts. Let's see here. We have, let me read the whole quote from Bob Roberts, the pastor at Northwood Church. He said, well, should you hand out gospel tracts? You should if it's not distracting from the event. I'm going to stop throughout this one. Well, of course it's going to be distracting to some individual. And honestly, I don't care if I'm distracting. The gospel interrupts people's lives. Christianity interrupted my life so much so that it changed the way that I live my life, the way I raise my kids, the way I live my life, the way I work as unto the Lord, the way I serve my employer with all of my heart, soul, and strength, you know, the way I do those sort of things. So I'm not going to agree entirely with what he has to say, but if you read it at face value, you're going to go, man, this guy makes a lot of sense.
I can entirely disagree with what he just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
You know, should you hand out gospel tracts? Yes, you should if you respect their wish not to listen to you. Well, I'm okay with that. You know, I have a friend who says, you know, when I hand a tract out to somebody, good luck trying to get it back into my hands. Whereas if somebody wants to hand a tract back to me,
the same way.
I say, yeah, give that back to me. That message is too precious for you. You know, you don't want that? Give that back. I'm going to give that to somebody else. You know, so we can agree to disagree on that. One individual, he said, no, do not hand out tracts if you don't genuinely love the people that you're sharing with. I think I don't know what the motive was for the individual who left the gospel tract at the park down on the ground that I found that was used specifically to lead me to Christ. That's why I'm so gung-ho on gospel tracts. I don't know what his motive was, but honestly, Scotty, I don't care. I don't care what your motive is. You know, and Ray inside the firefighter episode, he says, nobody cares what the motive is of the firefighter who rolls up to a scene where the house is on fire and there's a screaming child up in the window.
Right.
If he stops for a moment, he says, hey, ABC News is watching me. They're here. I'm going to look like a hero. You know, I'm just not feeling right, Scotty. Look, nobody cares what you're feeling, what you think about the individual. You have a duty. Go out there and snag a hold of that child. You know, and that's the way
and
we
he
should
has
be.
a sense of it too.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter if, like you say, if he felt bad that day or he didn't feel like doing it, as long as he saved me,
Right.
or saved my family, or whoever was in trouble.
You know, and this brings up a good point. The Apostle Paul says in Philippians chapter 1, verse 15, he says, some indeed preach Christ from envy and rivalry, but others from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I'm put here for the defense of the gospel. The former, they proclaim Christ out of rivalry, not sincerely, but thinking to afflict me in all my imprisonment. And then catch this. What then? Guess what? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, that Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice.
Right.
Because look, I don't care what your motive is on sharing the gospel. Share the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody cared enough to share with you, now return the favor. You know, and to call somebody evangelical who's not evangelizing is an entire contradictory of terms. And usually the people that are against one-on-one, you would find that they rarely share their faith. And there are exceptions to that rule.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that they were against one-on-one. Do people say that?
Well, no, they don't. In fact, this article goes on to say that the most effective way is personal evangelism. Personal evangelism is often the most effective. And I would agree, and that's what Danny Lehman said. And I would agree with Danny. Danny's a friend of the ministry here. But how do you get into their space? You know, for me, I think the most effective way to get inside somebody's life is to pull out a gospel tract. You know, pull that out, use it as a transitional form to go from the natural to spiritual.
Yeah.
An icebreaker. You know, absolutely. This gentleman said, hey, God spoke to Balaam through a donkey, so I reckon that God can also use a tract. Yeah, good on you, mate. I like that. Should you use a gospel tract? This person said, very rarely should you use gospel tracts. Why? Well, most people become Christians through relationships, not by being handed pieces of paper. Hudson Taylor.
That's the first one I thought of.
The best man at my wedding. You know, so, boy, we need to use gospel tracts more and more. Absolutely. And I think there's some very creative tracts out there, and there's very creative websites that are out there. And I think we're running out of time. And
we're doing well.
We're doing good. And I think that people behind the scenes, is that Danny over there? On you, Danny.
There he is.
Danny, do we need to wrap it up? Absolutely. All right, so we'll do that very thing. Hey, so if you're in Southern California and you have the ability to go down to Oceanside this weekend, I think it's the 23rd, you want to make your way over to Transformed, because I think this is the last conference we are having local in Southern California. So until next time, let me repeat the words of Todd Friel: go and serve your King, but also be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid as you proclaim the gospel. God bless you.
Good job.
You're full of it! Living Waters presents On the Box.